Welcome to Taboo Eminent channel. In a time when women were expected to confine their talents to the drawing room rather than the drawing board, Ada Lovelace dared to imagine something revolutionary. Born in 1815 as Augusta Ada Byron, she was the only legitimate child of the famous Romantic poet Lord Byron. But her mother, Lady Anne Isabella Milbank, a highly educated and mathematically gifted woman herself, was determined that Ada would not follow her father's tempestuous and artistic path. Instead, she surrounded young Ada with tutors in science, mathematics, and logic, subjects rarely deemed appropriate for a woman, much less a child of aristocracy. Thanks for watching. Request you to subscribe the channel. Ada's childhood was marked by illness and isolation, yet she found fascination in numbers, patterns, and mechanisms. She once sketched plans for a flying machine at the age of 12, combining imagination with engineering in a way that would come to define her genius. It was this unique blend of creativity and analytical rigor that later made her work so groundbreaking. Her life changed forever when, at 17, she was introduced to the mathematician and inventor Charles Babbage. Babbage was developing what he called the analytical engine, a mechanical general-purpose computer, astonishingly ahead of its time. While many admired the complexity of his design, few truly understood its potential. Ada did. She saw not just a machine that could crunch numbers, but one that could manipulate symbols, perform sequences, and, if programmed correctly, create art, compose music, or simulate any logical process. But she didn't just translate it, she added her own extensive annotations, labeled simply as notes. These notes were visionary. Within them, she described how the machine could follow a series of instructions, what we now call a program. She outlined in precise detail a method for the machine to calculate Bernoulli numbers, effectively writing the world's first algorithm designed for a computer. In doing so, she became the first computer programmer, a title she never lived to know. Yet her contributions were ignored for over a century. The Victorian world was not ready to celebrate a female scientist, and the analytical engine itself was never completed. Without a functioning machine to prove her theories, Ada's work was relegated to the footnotes of history, dismissed or overshadowed by Babbage's name. She died young, at only 36, from uterine cancer, buried next to the father she never knew. It wasn't until the 20th century, as modern computers were developed, that historians and scientists began to rediscover Ada's work. Scholars were stunned to find how her insights predated concepts that wouldn't be developed until the age of electronic computing. In 1980, the U.S. Department of Defense named a programming language, Ada, in her honor, cementing her place in the pantheon of pioneers. Today, Ada Lovelace stands as a symbol, not only of brilliance and innovation but of how easily genius can be forgotten when it doesn't fit society's expectations. Her story is a reminder that imagination is just as vital as logic, and that progress often begins when someone dares to see beyond what is, and dream of what could be. The forgotten genius of Ada Lovelace. In the quiet drawing rooms of 19th-century England, a young girl dreamed not of dresses and dances but of numbers, machines, and flight. Her name was Ada Lovelace, born Augusta Ada Byron in 1815. Her father was the notorious poet Lord Byron, a man known for his brilliance and scandals. But Ada never knew him. Her parents separated weeks after her birth, and he died when she was only 8. In the absence of her father, Ada's mother, Lady Anne Isabella, took charge of her upbringing, determined to protect her daughter from what she considered the madness of poetry. To keep Ada's mind focused on reason and discipline, her mother filled her education with mathematics, logic, and science. This was unusual. Most girls at the time were barely taught to read and sew, let alone solve equations. But Ada was no ordinary girl. She was captivated by inventions and dreamed of building a flying machine, filling notebooks with diagrams of wings and propulsion systems. While other girls her age played with dolls, Ada built dreams with gears, formulas, and imagination. When Ada was 17, her path crossed with that of Charles Babbage, a mathematician and inventor who had designed a mysterious machine called the analytical engine. This device, though never fully built, was a revolutionary concept, a machine that could perform any calculation through a series of instructions. In other words, it was the blueprint for the modern computer. Ada was fascinated. She saw in the machine not just numbers and cogs but limitless possibilities. Where Babbage saw a calculator, Ada saw a future. The two formed an unlikely friendship, and Babbage called her the enchantress of numbers. Years later, in 1843, Ada was asked to translate a paper written by an Italian engineer about Babbage's analytical engine. But she didn't stop at translation. She expanded the article with her own elaborate footnotes, which turned out to be far more insightful than the original paper. In these notes, Ada laid out a sequence of instructions for the machine to calculate Bernoulli numbers, a task requiring foresight, logic, and technical understanding. This was the first published algorithm ever intended for a machine, making her the world's first computer programmer, long before the invention of modern computers. But Ada didn't stop there. In her writing, she imagined machines that could compose music, create graphics, and express ideas beyond arithmetic. She wrote, "The analytical engine might act upon other things besides numbers." In an age where machines were used for weaving cloth or pumping water, her vision was shockingly modern. She was describing the very essence of modern computing, a general-purpose machine capable of more than just math, a machine of creativity and thought. Yet, history did not remember her. After her death at the age of 36 from cancer, her work was largely forgotten. The analytical engine was never completed, and her genius was dismissed or overshadowed by her male contemporaries. Her name was often omitted, her ideas attributed to Babbage, and her contributions buried beneath the weight of Victorian sexism. In the world of silicon chips and artificial intelligence, Ada's legacy endures. She may have lived in a world powered by steam and ink, but she dreamed of a digital future that we now live in. Her story teaches us that imagination and logic, poetry and programming, can belong to the same mind, and that even when forgotten, true genius never truly disappears.